and the woman who engineered some of Prince's biggest hits.
Oh, there's so much I would do differently. There's so much. I was not an experienced engineer, neither was he, and the two of us were working too fast.
Would be examined. Now, she's the woman who engineered the sound of Prince's most iconic music at the creative peak of his career, including the albums Purple Rain, Parade and Sign of the Times. And she went on to work with a host of brilliant artists, from David Byrne to Tricky. Now, Susan Rogers is to become the first woman to receive the Music Producers Guild Award for Outstanding Contribution to UK Music. I spoke to her earlier and began by asking her what it was like working with Prince.
He worked incredibly quickly, so he was so facile on so many instruments, he could play pretty much all of the instruments on his records. So often, when we didn't work with the band, it would be just the two of us in the studio, and he would start with the drums, move to the bass, do the keyboards, do the guitars, do the vocals, finish up the record. It was quite extraordinary. Most people don't work like that.
And you had your own creative input.
Yeah, I did. I joined Prince not as a recording engineer. I joined him as an audio technician, and a technician is the person who repairs the equipment. So I had practically no experience as a recording engineer. When I joined him in 1983, he made the really bold move to transition me from that technical chair to the engineering chair. So I had to learn the creativity, the art of engineering on the job with Prince. I knew the equipment, that was not a problem. I knew how to use it. The problem was sculpting sound to get an artistic result. He taught me his ear, and that's the ear that I used to build my career with.
And of all the songs that you worked with him on, is there one that you think you particularly nailed, or a favorite?
A personal favorite for me is on the Around the World in a Day album. It's called Condition of the Heart. It's a long piece with a very bold vocal and a very honest lyric. It's so soulful, and it shows his genius for arrangement. It shows his genius for taking just 24 tracks in the days of analog and orchestrating a piece of music, all of it just in his head, not writing down music, recording music to capture the arrangement. If anything shows the genius of Prince, that's certainly one of the tracks that does. Doing all of that on the fly, right to tape, brilliant.
Is there anything that you would do differently now for some of these tracks?
Oh, there's so much I would do differently. There's so much. I was not an experienced engineer, neither was he, and the two of us were working too fast. So records that were made by experienced engineers were sonically superior. What I learned from him, though, was that all people care about is the music. The sonic qualities of a work of musical art take a back seat to the musical qualities. His music was so great that we got away with murder. Originally, the track was a slower funk groove, and we worked on it for a long time at Sunset Sound in Los Angeles as a slower funk groove. And he didn't like it, so he stripped the whole top line and decided to speed it up. So we sped up the tape, but he kept the drums, he didn't re-record them. So speeding up the drums meant that the kick drum had this really sharp point. It sounds like a basketball in a gymnasium. It doesn't sound like a proper kick drum. He was fine with it.
Number of artists, when they pass away, some of their material comes out that's either been disregarded or it's a version that they weren't happy with, stuff that gets out that's unofficial. How do you think Prince feels about material getting into the public domain that he wasn't necessarily happy with?
I had to think about that really carefully after he passed away, and I had to decide what was best. And I recognized that he got to make those decisions when he was alive, because when he was alive, those decisions had an impact. The decisions of what to release had an impact on his career. But after he has passed, or any artist has passed, Their career no longer matters so much as their legacy and their reputation. That's what matters now. So now we get to hit the reset button. The audiences for the material that's in the vault include the critics and scholars and the historians, the folks who will write about music, the folks who will write about Prince's place in the history of music, as well as new fans. Those are the audiences that need to be served. Prince was proud of everything we did. If it went in the vault, he was proud of it. He chose not to release it during his lifetime for many pieces, but it didn't mean that he didn't think it was worthy.
Another artist you really enjoyed working with was Tricky from Massive Attack.
What was so fun about Tricky is the way he works is to improvise, 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 and layer tracks. He gave me great artistic freedom, and I loved that he'd go away for a few hours, come into the control room, and he'd light up one of his English joints, and he'd listen to it, and he'd go, wicked.
So you're the first woman to receive the Music Producers Guild Award for outstanding contribution to UK music. I mean, that is both a tremendous accolade and a real indictment of women in the industry.
I'm utterly thrilled and pleased, and I feel quite honored. It is a little bit, just a little bit bittersweet to recognize I'm the first woman, but we women have obstacles to overcome. We're successfully overcoming many of them, the social barriers, the impression that a woman who is monomaniacally focused on her career, that she's actually a good wife and mother. That's taken a little time for us to overturn those perceptions. The barriers to access are definitely coming down, but there's still the dilemma that making records it's not a 40-hour-a-week job. You're going to be spending 80 hours in many cases. That's not friendly to family life.
And finally, as the kind of one of the premier sound engineers, can you listen to a record and just enjoy it, or does something in your head automatically deconstruct it?
No, I always listen to music and just enjoy it. I always do. Well, I guess there was a period in my career where I was honing my skills and maybe I did some analytic listening, but when I listen to music, I am right there in my mind's eye. I am in the studio with them or on stage with them, and that's my happy place. It's where I want to be. Music that takes me to that place is satisfying for me.
Congratulations to Susan Rogers, and that's all from us. I'll be back tomorrow. From all of us here in Cardiff, a very good night.
When I needed someone to talk to, you're not around.
Maybe you could think about playing guitar. Are you looking for love, or reason to believe there's a God above?